Hello, 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 and welcome to the Restore Her podcast, where we're talking about healing, enlightenment, and renewal. I am your host, Cheryl Lacey Donovan, and we are excited about having you here with us today, especially because we're getting ready to gear up for our second RestoreHER Summit that's happening June 7th through 13th. That's June 7th through 13th. 7 p.m. Central Standard Time, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And this time we're going to have an opportunity to simulcast it on YouTube and on Facebook Live. And we are excited about having that to happen for us. And we have a phenomenal group of participants this time. They're going to be talking to you about the 7 different pillars that Restore Her is built on, the 7 different areas of our lives that may consistently need to be renewed, restored, and revived based on the season that we're in. And I just have to tell you that the season that we're in right now is one that if you're not careful, it can leave you with a spirit of heaviness. It can leave you with a spirit of defeat and despair. But at the end of the day, I know that there is still a God and that he is still able and that he is still in control. And because of that, we're still pushing forward. We're still pressing on with everything that we know to do to restore and renew in those areas of our lives. And you know them. Restore your identity, restore her health, restore her wealth, restore her relationships, restore her emotions, restore her spirit, and restore her passion. Those are the areas that we want to continually revisit to make sure that we are able and capable of doing everything that God has ordained for our lives. So having said that, I have an awesome person with me on the line. She is no stranger to Restore Her. She has talked to us before, and none other than Tajiri Brackens. Jerry, I'm excited about having you on today. Thank you so much.
Oh, most welcome, most welcome, most welcome. Girl, let's go get it. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it.
So she's going to be talking to us today about Restore Her Wealth. That's just one of the things that we talk about and one of the things that we address with the Restore Her movement. And we just want to give you a little ski taste of what's going to be happening in the summit. So, Tajiri, before we do anything else, go ahead and let our listeners know a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Wow. They say there's a jack of all trades and mastering, they say mastering none, but I say mastering some, mastering many, because as seasons change, we have to change. And with that, the skills that I have developed and the gifts that I have developed, one is primarily being an entrepreneur, having to reinvent myself in different ways. The main thing that I have been doing that for the past 30 years, which is just blows my mind, I've been with Mary Kay for the past 30 years, and that's a lot of change that has happened in 30 years that I have seen and needed to adjusting to the times, we'll just call it like that, as they come about, whether it be with new technologies, whether it be with new products and what have you, but having to learn it and being able to implement it so that I can continue to maintain a lifestyle and being able to handle the needs of my daily needs. And then the other thing that I am also is a speaker. International speaker, being able to pour into women, being able to pour into those and uplift them and encourage them, as well as a coach, and being able to strategically map out a plan to get people from point A to point B, from where they are to where it is that they want to be. And that is most, again, financially. It's not what's the word that I'm looking for? It's not like we having count time to where I'm sitting down diagnosing things for you. I'm working with some practical aspects here. Look, you need to figure out, okay, you need $300 by such and such date. Let's talk about it. Let's see how you can get it. And I believe that's in First or Second Kings, where the woman had issues with trying to pay a debt, and it was told to her, go into your home. What is it that you have? Let's see how we can make this work with what you have. And then from there, she had this oil that she was able to put into the vessels, and then be able to pay off her debt from there. So I work in a practical standpoint, not to break anybody's bank, but what is it that you already have that we can build on? And then once we start to get a solid foundation from there, then we'll be able to grow from that point. But I mean, let's just be candid about it. You can't even think about trying to grow anything if you can't handle what it is that you got for your basic necessities.
Okay, you just said a mouthful. Listen, and the key takeaway from that is you have to be willing to do the work. You have to be willing to dig deep, and that's what I love about what we do with Restore Her, with the Restore Her movement, because oftentimes, like you said, I'm a coach and do different things like that, and people just are not willing to do the work. They think that they want these things to manifest in their lives. They think that they want to have wealth and want to have everything that God has ordained for their life, but none of them are really willing to dig deep. And like you said, look at what you already have, because right now all they see are the problems, all they see are the issues, and they can't see past it. And a good coach is able to help you to do that, but you have to be willing. With the Restore Her movement, we're talking about, going behind the closed doors that are deep inside women's lives, to reveal some of those experiences, those emotional experiences that may be keeping them from living, their life on purpose. But you have to want to do that. You have to want to take a deep dive into that pain. You have to want to identify your truth. You have to want to, in some instances, learn how to forgive not only others, but maybe even yourself, for not being a faithful steward over that what God has given you, through finances and what have you. And then you have to be willing to listen to that inner wisdom, and that's what we're all about. So I love the way that you framed that with the woman in, I think it was 2 Kings, that she had some things that she actually could have utilized, and she didn't even realize it until somebody came in and showed her that. And the good part about that is that she was willing to listen and then act on what it is she was being told to do. How many of us have been told to do things, in coaching sessions and counseling sessions, through the word, and yet we don't even act on it? And then we wonder why we're in the situation that we're in. So I think about where everybody is now. We're talking about Restore Her Wealth, and I think about the whole pandemic issue, and I'm sure that there are a lot of people that are trying to make ends meet, and not let alone make ends meet, have them to turn around and face each other, let alone meet.
Right. Talking about waving at each other. Hey, how you doing over there, Ian? Yeah, I'm good. Can we meet in the middle? Can I get you just to take one step forward, closer to me?
Absolutely. So, the thing that I'm wondering right now is, what do you think are perhaps some of the biggest challenges that people may be facing right now with regard to their wealth? And maybe you could even share a time when you may have been facing a challenge with your wealth and what you did in order to overcome that.
You know what? I'm going to be very, very transparent. Let's pull back the veil. And I have had a quantum leap in my Mary Kay business. Quantum leap. Have moved from just being a consultant to positioning myself to be in the top 2% of the company.
Wow.
And that has happened actually within the past 30 days. Because, first of all, it takes a decision. And this is kind of what we were talking about before. You have to be willing, and you have to execute some things. And I truly believe that God aligns things so that he can have you do what he's already promised you, that he said he would do, as well as fulfilling the promise of he'll give you the desires of your heart, as long as you acknowledge him first. He gave us a dream. He gave us the vision, and now he has orchestrated things so that the provision so that he is able to provide and make things manifest from you. So in my transparency and putting myself in that position, because I've always wanted to be in that top 2%, but life had happened and it wasn't my time. And that's one thing I must say. We have to wait on God's timing, and we have to have that relationship to know what it is that he's saying and when he's saying it. And then we have to be ready and willing to move. We may not necessarily have all of the tools to let's just say finances to move forward, but if you're ready and you're willing, the means will come. My God, that comes from faith, because you're literally faithing it out and moving it forward. So my story was came home, and this is during the pandemic, in the midst of it all. In the midst of it all, when, you just don't know how it's going to happen and what have you, because I'm a firm believer in multiple streams of income. Yes. Multiple streams of income, because you never know when.
Uh-huh.
I'm sorry, say that again?
I said I think Ecclesiastes talks about that too.
Hello. So in having the multiple streams of income, when the pandemic started to happen, and it really got when the nitty-gritty of it came, that started to mess with my money. Now, money ain't everything, but it's up there with oxygen. You got to have it. You got to have it. And I've never been one to be money hungry, but I'm also a realist. And once some of my sources of income were impacted because of the pandemic, then I had to go back and look at what I had at home to see how I could make up for what it was that I had lost. Mm-hmm. And in doing so, even in the mix of this, I am able to maintain 1, 2, 3, 4 streams of my income. And I have 7, 8 that I have access to easily. But like I said, some of those have been taken from me or have slowly, you know what, never taken from me. Let me take that back. It's never taken from me. They've just been impacted by what it is that's currently going on. So I've had to reinvent or re-strategize the remaining 4 so that I can still maintain. And with moving, so going back a little bit, with moving or positioning myself so that I can be in the top 2% of the company, it was a decision. That was the first thing. It was a decision. And recognizing the timing. And in recognizing the timing, then there was the execution. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And upon the execution, there's also prayer. Mm-hmm. And in that prayer, it's, Lord, send me the people that I need and that need me. Because what I have to offer, and again, I'm talking specifically right now, just the Mary Kay aspect of it. Those people that need the help and that are, again, willing to receive what it is that's being given to them. So from that, I will tell you in 10 days, from April 20th to April 30th, my team and I went from no production and no sales to 6,000. Wow. Do you hear me? From nothing to 6,000. Yeah. And it's like, because there is a need to figure out and have a plan B, because so many companies are downsizing, they're furloughing people. I just heard yesterday that Chevron is getting ready to get rid of some people. Are you kidding me? And I understand when gas is low. I understand the dynamics of that.
Right.
When it works for us in our pocketbook as a consumer, but for those that's supplying it, it hurts them. I understand that part, but I don't see how. And that's not meant for me to go and figure that out. But, but then, of course, we're not able to get up and drive as much as we were before either. So I can see part of that happening as well. But, a big Fortune 500 company like that's having to make adjustments, and the lives that are about to be affected, because those people that may have been working that were working with the company, and I'm just using Chevron right now because that's what I just saw, thought they had something that was secure.
Wow.
And that security is a trip when it comes to working for somebody else. The only true secure thing is having your own.
That is absolutely
because
true.
You are able to control that. Corporate America, if you walk in there looking just a little too sassy one day and your boss don't like you, they're going to find a reason to fire you. They're going to be all on you. And that jealousy, that spirit, that demonic spirit, that evil spirit of jealousy is going to come over and try and orchestrate all kind of ways to make it uncomfortable for you. Or as we say in corporate America, hostile work environment. Somebody has experienced that. Or if your spirit or your energy is not right, doesn't mesh with them, or you're not in the in crowd, you're not in the clique or what have you, then that can create problems for you in corporate America. And I digress with that. But having your own and being able to control what it is that you're able to do, and if you can sit down and write your paycheck as to what it is that you want, that buys you, no pun intended, that buys you freedom.
Yeah.
That buys you freedom. Because I call working for somebody else being inside of the box. And that box is the paycheck box. So whatever they deem that position is worth is what they're going to pay you. And that determines what you eat, that determines where you live, that determines what you drive, that determines how you live as far as disposable income. I mean, it determines every single thing about your life. When you are working for somebody else and working within that box. Whereas having your own, you have the freedom to do whatever you want to do. If it's something that you want, you go out there, you get it. You get the money so that you can have what you want. If you decide you don't want to work today, you ain't got to go to work today. But if it's corporate America, you may decide you don't want to go to work today. Now, some may say you can call in sick, but you still have an obligation to somebody else. But you got to get up and go to work. At some point, you got to get up and go to work. As long as you're working for somebody else.
That is so very, very true. And I just believe that everyone has certain gifts and talents that they can utilize to create, to help them to create wealth. God is the one that gives us the ability to get wealth. And I think, it takes someone to help us to look at that and identify what that is. And I'm thinking about what you just said, and I in regards to my own finances, I can say that, I just got this unction in my spirit to do some investing, hadn't done any. And if I tell you where that investment is now, like you said, starting from zero compared to where it is now, I'm like, why hadn't I done this before? What was, I think you said it's all about timing. It's all about looking at what you do have as opposed to what you don't have. And, prior to thinking, okay, well, I need to have, thousands of dollars in order to invest. And, I've done it before, but just didn't stick to it. So, it's all about looking around and seeing what it is that you do have. So if you had to tell everyone about something that perhaps you've learned about wealth or creating wealth, what's the most important thing that you've learned about creating wealth?
Persistence and consistency. and I'm still going to go back to prayer. I'm going to go back to prayer because so many people can blow up so fast, and you've seen this. They blow up so fast because they're caught in the hustle and bustle that without a solid, and this is just my 2 cents. Everybody got their own belief. This is just what I know and it has worked for me and what I have seen. Without having a solid spiritual foundation, just as fast as you got it, and depending on how you got it, if it wasn't done right, and every industry has its right, you will lose it just as fast as you got it. If it's done, now what I can say that is universal, despite what your industry is, if it was done with the sake of just seeing the money and not helping the people, you're going to lose it.
Right.
If it was done in the malice, a malice form, if it was done to use the people, you're going to lose it.
Yep.
If it's more me. Now, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with goals, because you got to have something to measure, to grow towards. So yes, it is your goal, but in the process of it being your goal, how are you helping people along the way? Because I guarantee you, and I will put every last dime that's in my bank account on it. When you help the people, you get more of what it is that you want. When you show them how they are able to, which is part of what I do as far as strategizing, when you show them how they can be self-sufficient, there's longevity that comes with that. Hence why I named them, my unit the Talented 10th. That comes from W.B. Du Bois. It's each one reach one. Let me show you how to do this. Even Word tells us, I can give you fish. I can feed you right now. But if I teach you how to fish, you set for life. Now you're talking legacy.
Right. Exactly.
And that's what I strive, what I build on is legacy. And even when I just shared this with a very good friend last night, even when I'm not working, quote unquote, not working, I am still working. So I can't say I can't function in a carnal way sometimes, because it's still my brand, because I never know who knows who. I never know who's really watching what it is that I'm doing. So I'm always working, but I do have my times when I let my hair down. Does that make sense?
It makes very much sense, ma'am. Yes, ma'am, it does.
Okay. Because, you never know. And, I mean, think about, we can go on the news. We can have those stories on the news. Oh, she was just such a nice person, and this, and that, and the other, and I never would have thought, blah, 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 blah. And those would be the ones that, went left and crazy on their spouse or done whatever that's just unthinkable. But because of who their representative, my God, we see that in dating too, the representation that they have, that they put forth, that's what they wanted you to see. And I need for what I present to be in alignment with what it is that I do behind closed doors. Because it has to be, I said that earlier, consistency. You got to have it, because when you don't, something is going to fall through the cracks. And when it seeps out that's not in alignment, my God, and it's not in alignment with what it is that you portray, it's going to be like that thread, that one thread, that once you start pulling on it, it unravels everything else. So you've got to have that balance and that consistency on both sides. And that way you ain't got to worry about, think about, okay, well, I got to put this hat on today. Well, I got to put that hat on tomorrow. Well, wait a minute. I'm doing this and this. How am I going to have a hybrid with both of these hats? Let me get half of this and half of that. Let me get a quarter of this piece, and let me get an eighth of that, and then half of that over there. No, I just need to be consistent all the way around, because that's too much trying to juggle that around. Be true to thine own self. And if you consistently show up in every place the same way, you ain't got to worry about trying to do that masquerade thing and juggling all of that.
You know what, that is so true, and sometimes that consistency piece is the most difficult piece, especially if you don't see the fruits of your labor immediately. You know, we live in this kind of microwave society, instant gratification. You know, I need to see it now, and if I don't see it now, then I move on to something else. And you know, sometimes you have to recognize that patience is a virtue. Sometimes you just need to sit and wait, you know, continue to do the work, but eventually, you know, don't grow weary in well-doing, because you will reap the harvest. You just have to, in God's timing, when it's time for that to happen, when it's time for it to occur, it absolutely will happen. Absolutely. So, you know, when we look at everything that's going on right now, do you see any crucial changes that are taking place or that you think may come in the future with regards to wealth and being able to obtain wealth?
Any obstacles?
Or just changes, period. You know, we're dealing with a lot of, for instance, with what I do professionally, we were at one time teaching where we were 2 days on the campus and 2 days online. Now we're totally online. So we had to, some of us, I already was fully equipped with technology, but there are some people that were struggling because they had to flip over to new technology that they had never done before. And I'm asking, you know, do you see any crucial changes that may take place or that people may have to begin to utilize with regards to wealth and how they obtain that wealth, especially, you know, business-wise? If you're somebody that normally got your business through face-to-face contact or in-person contact, what kind of changes do you think are there that will make that either more difficult or could improve it? I don't know.
It's funny you should mention technology, because that was the first thing that I thought about when you asked the question. And one being... Imagine how this is cyclical, willing to embrace the new changes. And one is technology. Change is inevitable. You can't not go with it. I mean, one thing that it's a pet peeve. I can't stand it. But I know that there are people that are like this. They don't want to move with what's happening. They resist the change because I've always done it this way, and it's worked for me this way. Well, honey, this way ain't going to work no more because they don't have what they were using before is not available to you now, so this way ain't going to work. It ain't going to work no more. And I know that's grammatically incorrect, but you get it. So yes, being able to embrace technology, and I have had to have that shift myself. Was now they say social distancing, but I don't like to call it social distancing. I actually prefer the words of physical distancing, because we're still socializing. You know, but there's just a physical distancing that we have to have between each other, and now it's done via Zoom. Oh, my God, I've been on Zoom before all of this happened. And now everything is Zoom, a Zoom call for this, a Zoom call for this.
Yes.
I'm so doggone zoomed out, but I'm glad that I started to embrace it before it became a necessity. Oh, my God, talk to me, Holy Spirit. Sometimes we have to embrace those things and start to touch them before it becomes a necessity for us, and that's the only way that we can function.
Absolutely. And that's very important, because things are always, this is one thing that I know, whether I like it or not, the one thing that's constant is change. Things are going to change, and you have to put yourself in position to be able to accept that and to move with that, or else you're going to get left behind. because things are not going to remain the same, especially when you're talking about building wealth and, now even if you're talking about investments or creating businesses and what have you, a lot of that is done through technology. And you just have to get to a place where you embrace that. And learning is a continuous process. It never stops. And you have to, if you want to remain relevant, you have to put yourself in the mode of consistently being educated, consistently being trained, consistently learning, and identifying how you can incorporate some of the new things that are happening into what you're doing now. I would venture to say with everything that's going on with the pandemic that there are some employers that before now really believed that people working remotely or from home or online, they didn't believe that their industries would be able to do that or that it was even capable or possible. And now they're identifying that it is. And I think many of them are going to continue with that.
Absolutely.
Because it is possible. And the advantages for our environment and even our lifestyle are tremendous. They may even far outweigh the detriment that has been caused as a result of having to learn this lesson. I've seen where people's productivity has increased because they're working from home. So it's I think that these changes they're taking place. They are crucial, but I think that they're going to be beneficial in the long run. And if people go ahead and just relax and embrace them, they're going to find that they're going to be good changes for their lives.
And, I'm going to even kind of push the envelope a little bit further. Yes, they have found out that the companies can still be productive with having their employees work from home, but also, I'm going to flip the coin on that. It's also letting companies see what positions are really critical to their organization. So from that, it may cause them to even do some restructuring on their side. And then, of course, necessity is the mother of all invention, not only embracing the technology side of it earlier that we were talking about, but also creating teams. That's another thing that is necessary for creating wealth is creating teams. You can't do everything by yourself.
No, you cannot.
So... excuse me, so there has to be some type of either delegation or education that needs to happen. So with that, if I've got this team, and I'm with my consulting firm, the other thing that I do consulting, as it relates to corporate training with the primary focus on diversity and inclusion. Well, there are some things that I can do, but I can't do everything as it relates to that. So sometimes I may have to pull in somebody to talk on XYZ topic, or I may have to pull somebody in for, I don't know, extra technology or something, because audio visual, that ain't my thing. I know the basics. If you can plug it in and turn it on and click, I'm good. But if it means connecting this with this, I can't do that. That's not my gift. I know how to stay in my lane. And employ those that employ those that know how to do it. And that's the other thing, knowing how to stay within your lane. Once that's a very overused cliche, I think, but it is so accurate. It's so accurate. So let's just think you're driving. Let's kind of put this a visual in place with that. So let's say you're driving and on the highway, and you got 5 different lanes going across the highway. Well, if you start moving over to the left because you like the way something is moving over in the left lane better than your right, and you don't bother looking to see if another car is coming or what's in that lane, one or two things can happen. Either you're going to have an accident, or that lane may lead you to exit and detour and go in a completely different opposite direction of where it is that you need to go. So if you stay in your lane, you're going to be on course to where it is that you need to go.
Exactly. So, Tajiri, as always, it has been a pleasure speaking with you today. I have a couple of takeaways. You said you have to make a decision. It's all about timing. Then you have to have some execution. And lastly, you need to have some prayer. And I think all of those are important when we're talking about building wealth. We're looking forward to having you present for the summit that's happening June 7th through 13th for the second RestoreHER Summit that we're having, picking on RestoreHER Wealth. Before you go, let our listeners know how they can connect with you.
I'm very active on Facebook. It's Tajiri Brackens, Tajiri, and the last name Brakcens, B as in baby, Rackens. And you'll need to look for the picture that has diversity and inclusion specialist. I'm also on LinkedIn. And then Instagram, I think the young kids call it IG now. I'm on Twitter, but I ain't as active on Twitter as a whole bunch of other people. So many platforms. I can't be active on all of them. That can be very time consuming. So that's one way of being able to reach out to me. And it's actually the best way to reach out to me is via Facebook. As they say, DM me or inbox me or however it is that you want to connect with me. That's going to be the best way, and I'm very good about responding. I typically respond within 24 hours, if not sooner. But those are the best ways to be able to contact me, and then just staying connected with you. That's the other thing, too. So if they ask, hey, who was that woman talking about money? Who was that woman talking about wealth? Papa, who that woman? Then definitely that can be another means of connection. The website is in a reconstruction mode. Remember earlier I said reinventing. So there's some things that are happening with it to be able to make it a lot easier and user-friendly on the website to be able to get those things that you need or those things that interest you most about how to be able to connect with me and how to utilize my services and what it is that I offer.
Okay. Listen, we might need to have you with us Saturday for our Pajama Jamma Jam. We're doing a virtual Pajama Jamma Jam on June the 5th at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. So I'll hit you up later and see if you have time to just pop in real quick and join us. Maybe you can help us with one of your favorite virtual games or something. I don't know. We just plan on having a good time.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Nothing like the Jamma Jams.
Awesome. Everybody, we've been speaking with Tajiri Brackens. She is one of the presenters for our second summit for the RestoreHER movement. It's happening June 7th through 13th, 7 p.m. Central Standard Time, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time every evening. We look forward to having you there. She's going to be talking about RestoreHER Wealth. If you want to find out more about the movement, feel free to visit my website, CherylSpeaks.org, and Cheryl is spelled with a C, or you can go to the RestoreHERmovement.org. That's RestoreHERmovement.org, and find out all the wonderful things that we are doing. It has been a pleasure speaking with you today. We love you, and remember that God can do exceedingly and abundantly more than you could ever ask or think, according to the power that works in you. Y'all be blessed.